Here in Los Angeles. Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us on the Fox Local Stream. I'm Marla Tejas. If you look at the calendar, it is the final day in March 31st. Why is that significant? Well, 2 months ago, January 31st, that was the last time anyone saw Nancy Guthrie. Yes, we are talking about that case today. The Nancy Guthrie case remains a mystery in southern Arizona that has captivated the nation. Approaching 60 days, that's tomorrow officially, since the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie vanished from her home just north of Tucson. The trail has seemingly gone cold, and scrutiny of the Pima County Sheriff has certainly intensified. Fox 10 investigator Justin Lum joins me now live from Phoenix to preview a special report he and his team have been working on. This streams tomorrow night, April 1st at 5 p.m. It's called Gone in the Night, the search for Nancy Guthrie. Justin, it's great to see you.
Thank you for having me, Marla. As you know, this is a case that we have extensively covered here in the Valley, in Arizona, and nationally. I mean, this is a huge case, and as we approach the 60-day mark, this really is a milestone, and it's a 60-day reality check that amid the national attention, the media frenzy, and all the noise regarding the Pima County Sheriff, what we don't have is proof of life. Nancy Guthrie, we don't have a condition and status on, and a lot has happened within the first 2 months, so our team wanted to dig deeper and sort of let viewers know how we got here, break down this chilling timeline of her last hours in her home in the Catalina foothills, and then really taking people into the community impact, the psychology of true crime 24/7 streaming, and then we also had a great panel of experts to talk about what's next.
Yeah, and that panel of experts delves into sort of the theories, the working theories that this could point to that are being thrown out there right now. Really important work, Justin. And for our viewing audience right now on the stream, when I said it's great to see you, Justin and I, we go way back. You're in Arizona now, I'm in Los Angeles, but we've known each other for many, many, many years. We will get to that because I think that's an important piece to point out today. But first, in this search for Nancy Guthrie special, Gone in the Night, you begin with a clip that you're going to show us today involving someone at the center of this entire investigation. Of course, that's the Pima County Sheriff himself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sheriff Chris Nanos, who we last spoke to one-on-one on February 17th. Now, we, of course, requested a new interview for this special report, but he declined to talk about that. And that's also been a point of contention, the debate between having press conferences weekly or even daily, and then having the one-on-one interview. So we spoke to a retired deputy sheriff with PCSD who worked there for 30 years. He's not just criticizing Sheriff Nanos. He has a lot of experience knowing him and going way back. This is a former U.S. Surgeon General in Dr. Richard Carmona. So we can get to that clip right now, really talking about the crime scene and how it was released and resealed multiple times.
As the FBI joined the investigation, Nancy's property became a recurring crime scene that first week, released and then resealed numerous times. During windows of access, our own crews walked up to see blood spots on the front porch, later confirmed to belong to Nancy.
Remember, it was a search and rescue mission the first few hours, and we transitioned that over to a criminal investigation. With that, brought in our partners from the FBI and others.
DNA evidence recovered from inside Nancy's home was sent to a private lab in Florida, the sheriff turning down an offer from the FBI's headquarters in Quantico, Virginia. In our latest interview, Sheriff Nanos pushed back, refuting rumors that he delayed federal involvement or chose the wrong lab to process evidence.
They were never not a part of this investigation. They were always a part of it. And to suggest that the sheriff blocked evidence, that's just crazy.
What Nanos did reveal to us that day is a forensic snag that could stall the investigation. DNA samples recovered from Nancy's home aren't a clean match, but instead a biological puzzle that could take months to decipher.
We have DNA from that scene that is a mixture of DNAs. So we have to separate, hope the lab can do that, and still preserve some of that evidence in case the defense wants to test it should we make an arrest.
I would say that we have used private labs in the past for things, but the FBI is working on the case with you, and they have the best forensic lab in the world, and it's at no cost to you.
So that was Dr. Richard Carmona, who is basically saying, why not go to the best forensic lab in the nation? And you have Chris Nanos, who has told us multiple times that they had already sent biological evidence to this private lab in Florida. It just made sense to keep everything in that house. And these allegations of infighting between the FBI and PCSD, we talk about all that with Carmona. But back to Nancy Guthrie, which the focus remains on for people who don't know. She's 84 years old, relies on daily heart medication, has difficulty walking. So, you know, it's hard to think about what could have happened to her and where we are at now at approaching day 60. And it is very grim, but we get into all of that in this special.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for reminding us about the fragile health of Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, the fact that she does need daily medications. And I remember on February 1st when it was talking about that very thing, and we need to find her because she needs her medications and she can't survive beyond this. And here we are tomorrow marking 60 days. Question for you. Who is the primary agency leading this investigation? Is it still Pima County Sheriff's Department, or in fact, is it the FBI with the assistance of the Sheriff's Department, Justin?
That's a good question. I mean, really, we thought that the FBI was taking over this case. And now from what we're hearing, there's been some mixed messaging in who's leading this. You know, the FBI obviously does not have to put a lot of communication out to the press. I mean, here and there are press releases, but we were getting at one point daily updates from the Pima County Sheriff's Department. So
not
really
anymore.
The optics looked like it was Pima County. And now I'm not so sure, but I did, from Richard Carmona in that interview, he tells me that from his law enforcement colleagues, FBI special agents as well felt like they were not treated as peers in this case, and they were sort of brought in too late, hence the crime scene being put up, taken down. I mean, really multiple times. You even had a pizza delivery guy getting on the scene when there was open access. So he believes that the scene was compromised early on and that this case was mishandled from the start on the media standpoint as well from the end of the Pima County Sheriff's Department.
I mean, I know that you're, at the epicenter of all of this, but here in Los Angeles, I mean, obviously it's a big deal, to your point, nationwide. We led with the story for many days, and then it sort of just kind of takes a backseat to the other day's news, and all these, a couple of months later. I'm curious, how out front is the sheriff now? Is he giving daily updates? Is he giving weekly updates? Do you have access to him? I think you said you last spoke to him in mid-February. Is that right?
Yeah, February 17th. He has kept media access open to local Tucson news outlets and, of course, NBC News because of the relationship with Savannah Guthrie. And really, that has been it. So it's been quiet. This trail has seemingly gone cold. This second month has really sort of, fizzled out, and that's not good. But you hope that behind the scenes, the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department, they're working a lot of leads, they're working on forensic evidence. But in the first couple of weeks, we also saw multiple people detained and questioned, FBI raids, and so there was a lot of chaos, thousands of tips. And I'd like to, if we can, go to our second preview, where our Megan Spector reports on the roller coaster of developments.
10 days after Nancy's disappearance, investigators followed a lead to Rio Rico, a small border town about an hour south of Tucson.
A news alert tonight at 9. The Pima County Sheriff's Office confirms that one person has been detained for questioning in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie.
Carlos Palazuelos was working as a delivery driver when he was detained by police. Only hours after the FBI released photos of a suspect from Nancy's doorbell camera the morning she disappeared.
Until right now, all I know is that they show my in-law a picture of somebody wearing a mask or something, and they supposedly look like my eyes.
Palazuelos says he was questioned by police and then released, a case of mistaken identity that left him shaken.
Terrifying. Something I didn't do for something. I was being like, I felt like I was being kidnapped, bro, because they didn't tell me anything at the beginning.
3 days later, authorities made their next move. A multi-agency SWAT raid targeted a neighborhood about 2 miles from Nancy's home. Nearby, FBI agents searched a Range Rover in a restaurant parking lot. They are surrounding this vehicle behind me in the Culver's parking lot, which is about 5 minutes away from where the media staging was set up. That's where we just came from. Though 3 people were detained that night, the sheriff's department released all of them hours later. One of them was Luke Daly, who described the moments he was stopped at a local restaurant.
And again, that was our Megan Spector reporting this, a preview of the chaos that was happening across southern Arizona, not just in the Catalina foothills area, but those 2 men who were interviewed that were questioned after their detainment and release, they have lawyered up and they are wondering why they were even brought into custody. So a lot happened, but here we are. What we really have is a lone visual of the masked man at Nancy's doorstep, 5'9" average build, with this very specific Ozark Trail backpack that can only be purchased at Walmart. That is the biggest lead we have right now as far as an image of a suspect.
Yeah, and so you brought up the doorbell footage of the masked individual, the Walmart backpack. You mentioned early on the DNA that your cameras saw up close and personal, the blood that was matched to Nancy Guthrie, but then the sheriff also saying that other DNA was mixed involving not just Nancy Guthrie, but somebody else. That's all key evidence. The reward stands at $1.1 million. This is being put up by the Guthrie family, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong. Savannah goes back to work. Savannah Guthrie, of course, the daughter, Today Show host of Nancy Guthrie. She goes back to work on Monday. You're doing this special. The other element amidst the chaos, when you're pointing out these detentions of seemingly innocent individuals, they were detained and released and said I had nothing to do with it. They're on their way now, lawyering up. We were covering, along with TMZ here, all the ransom demands, right? There was notes and emails that were sent to TMZ in particular. You know, we team up with TMZ, so we were getting that reporting firsthand as well. What happened to those ransom demands? No more emails, no more notes?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, we obviously all are keeping track of TMZ and any other outlets that received these alleged ransom notes asking for millions of dollars, specifically in cryptocurrency, I believe. And that was its own story as well, where we saw Harvey Levin on TV and talking about these notes coming in, and those just died off within that first month of this investigation early on. And the Guthrie family said they were ready to talk and putting out their own messaging via Instagram, on social media, and it doesn't seem anything connected there. So there are so many layers to this story, but still just so many questions as well. And speaking of media and Savannah getting back to work, I mean, we saw it right on the front doorstep of Nancy Guthrie's house, where you had the legacy media and you had the true crime YouTubers who were constantly streaming, just like, you know, we were streaming to our live feeds. And so we get into the psychology of that. Our Nicole Christine gets into the true crime landscape that we have and how we track high profile cases in 2026, where there's constantly information, misinformation, sometimes disinformation, and people at risk who have nothing to do with the case. And we as journalists, obviously, we navigate that and try to get the facts for our viewers.
Yeah, you know, you've been an investigative reporter for quite some time now. Can you paint a picture for us, though, because you've been to Nancy Guthrie's house, you know the neighborhood well. We haven't been. So is this a real, as far as, you know, we've reported or we've heard, this is a pretty remote area.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty is so scenic. You're right at the base of the Catalina foothills. And even outside of this neighborhood, outside of this Camino Escalante Street, it's very dark. Me and my photojournalist, Corey Goodwin, went out there at night specifically to get drone footage. I know our Fox flight team was there as well every day for the beginning of the investigation, but you see how dark it is. You see that there are no streetlights really at all on that street that Nancy lived on, alone as well. So it just paints a picture of how dark and quiet it is. And even on Campbell Avenue, coming down from that neighborhood, it is just really hard to see anything. And so FBI has asked for people living in that area to supply video of cars coming and going on that road between midnight and dawn February 1st, just to see if they can get anything besides this video that they had to scrape from Google's back-end systems of this suspect. So trying to get every forensic lead. And so I also want to point out that this panel that we had on, we didn't just get into theories,
you know what, Justin,
what went wrong,
let me
what
jump
were the
in.
missteps.
Let me just jump in here because I know that we have another clip that we want to share from this special Gone in the Night regarding the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Before we do that, let's just take a quick break here on the Fox Local Stream, and then we'll continue our conversation. I'm talking to Fox 10 investigator Justin Lum. Our conversation will continue in just 2 minutes on the Fox Local Stream. Welcome back, everyone, to the Fox Local Stream. I'm Marla Tejas from Fox 11 in Los Angeles. Thanks so much for joining us. I have with me, coming to us from Arizona, Justin Lum. He's a Fox 10 investigator. He and his team have worked really hard on a special that streams tomorrow night, April 1st. We'll get to those details in a moment. It's called Gone in the Night, the search for Nancy Guthrie. Tomorrow marks 60 days officially since she was last seen. Justin, appreciate you hopping on the stream with me. There are so many theories surrounding her disappearance at this point. I mean, I think it's hard for a lot of people to believe that she still hasn't been found. There's no one in custody for her disappearance. What do you know about these working theories?
Yeah, I think the one that has stayed in focus is the alleged abduction of Nancy Guthrie, and we point back to the blood spots on this patio. And first off, I want to say we really wanted to be picky and intentional with this investigative war room we basically assembled. And we have a retired FBI special agent in Jennifer Coffindaffer, former homicide prosecutor, Matt Murphy, and a very renowned forensic genealogist in Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick. And Dr. Fitzpatrick says, based on the blood spots that our own crew went up and shot, it looks like expirated blood, meaning it was coughed up or it came from a nosebleed. And that is really huge evidence because it's confirmed to belong to Nancy. We know about the DNA mixtures, but is there any DNA profile from a suspect? We just don't know what they have. So there's so many theories. Back to the alleged abduction, we know that critical dates besides January 31st and February 1st that are being investigated is January 11th for some reason. And that is weeks before she was allegedly taken. So does this indicate a targeting of some sort? I wish we had the answers, but I mean, the theories that we were able to garner, you know, with knowledge from these experts was very insightful.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned January 11th as being a key date. What are you hearing about that? I mean, is that literally it, that investigators for some reason are honing in on, what, 20 days before she was last seen?
Yeah, this is a key date that's been pinpointed with no really rhyme or reason, but even in Savannah Guthrie's latest statement on Instagram, in her written statement, that was one of the dates that she says investigators are looking at. And it could be, you would think, surveillance video from residents in the area to put that together and see if there's any link. Obviously, we know about the cars driving by on Campbell Avenue, just outside of the neighborhood, going into town. They want that video. It's a very dark neighborhood with not a lot of light, but those are the dates that they're looking at. And, you know, former homicide prosecutor Matt Murphy said you just have to be open to all scenarios, especially when you're getting into day 60 at this point.
All right, let's go ahead and listen to that clip.
You have kind of a different take, and you do not believe, your theory is that this was a kidnapping at all. Is that right? Can you talk about what you believe happened?
Well, no, I think that my point all along is that we have to have an open mind to all possibilities, including the potential possibility this was a sexual assault from the very beginning. And what can happen, I know Jennifer has seen this probably firsthand more than once, like I have, where somebody will develop a theory and they really like that theory, and it's almost like a puppy. It's cute, they love it, and they focus on that to the exclusion of everything else. In cases like this, we keep hearing the term eliminated. This person's been eliminated. Nobody's really eliminated until you have an active, viable theory on what happened, and you've pretty much solved it. And I did it long enough. I spent 17 years in homicide, where more than once I believed a murder was one thing, and then all of a sudden you would encounter some radical left turn, and it turned out to be something completely different. So my point all along is everybody has to have an open mind in this investigation, and everybody has to have an open mind in the public. As far as the media goes, Sheriff Nanos called the media in, as we all remember, at that famous press conference. He brought the media in to bring attention to the case. I have no problem with that. But then, he also hasn't been really Johnny on the spot with answering some of those questions. This is a tremendously sad case. But I think that anything is on the table right now, and people have to remember that until they solve it. Everybody has to have an open mind.
And as you can see, Matt Murphy, that is probably the first time we've heard that theory. Our team was shocked to hear that. On the other side, Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI, says she believes this was an abduction that involved multiple people. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you out. I just wanted to. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to clarify what you're referring to. So that was the first time we've heard this potential theory of, was this a sexual assault?
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that. Obviously, that's coming from someone not involved in the case, but we value Matt Murphy's experience as a former homicide prosecutor, and that the day 60 mark, I mean, we asked, do they think Nancy's still alive? I mean, really, there are some grim aspects to this, as we are now at the 2-month mark. So we get into that conversation. That was our anchor, Ellen McNamara, leading the panel, and we'll have that full conversation on our YouTube channel and Fox Local as well.
Yeah, I mean, for people who are watching this from Los Angeles or greater Southern California, Matt Murphy probably looks familiar. That's because he spent almost 20 years in the Orange County DA's office as a deputy DA, made his way up to a senior deputy DA. I've talked to him before. And then for viewers of Dateline, he has been in a number of Datelines as well. So he probably looks familiar to a whole bunch of people. And to your point, he is a good resource to lean on, Justin. I'm glad that he is part of your special. He brought up the fact that, yes, Sheriff Chris Nanos from Pima County, he was out front and was giving access to the media and reporters like you. It's not been that accessible as of late. I understand that. But then he also said that he's garnered a lot of scrutiny and a lot of skepticism. And that leads me to, I looked him up myself, not being from your neck of the woods, Justin. He's been with the department for almost 40 years. Has there been any talk of him still wanting to run for re-election? I know he was just sworn in for his second term, and there are no term limits. He was sworn in 2025. The next election would be in 2028. But do we think that this has tarnished his career?
Oh, I mean, if you look at the optics, I mean, right now it's not a good look with what's going on. And he won by a small margin. And right now, I'm glad you bring him up. There is a recall effort against Sheriff Nano. So while that's happening, the County Board of Supervisors in Pima County have also decided to compel him on April 7th to question him about his resume and details that were not very accurate, and they just have a lot of questions for him. And from what we were told by Dr. Carmona and his through his colleagues, is that there's not a lot of pleased people on the board. So he is definitely under increasing scrutiny as the days go on, and Nancy Guthrie is still missing. So that's something that we'll continue to track. And you're right, he came out of the gates really accessible to the media, having the daily press conferences and dwindling down to very specific one-on-ones. And then people, as you know, in the media, if one of us breaks something that's exclusive or a huge development, well, other outlets are going to call and email and want that information confirmed. They just can't go with it. So all of that noise and all that messaging, it needed to be framed up accurately, because you had so many different ears listening in different times.
Well, we're about to wrap things up, but as promised off the top of the interview, I introduced you as someone who I go way back with. We worked together at NBC Bay Area, and I bring this up because you were an intern, and you were a dogged intern, meaning you knew what you wanted and you shadowed me. And look at you now, you're an award-winning investigative journalist for Fox 10, and I couldn't be more proud of you. And I'm wanting the viewing audience to know this, because you do such incredible work, and you do it with such integrity that when they watch your reporting, they know that they're getting the real deal. I mean, you are what journalism is all about. So Justin Lum, I'm so proud of you, and I look forward to seeing you and your team's really hard work here in this special. And let me just tell the folks here, we're going to throw this up on a full screen so people have all the information. It is called Gone in the Night. The search for Nancy Guthrie premieres tomorrow, April 1st at 5 p.m. on Fox Local app and the Fox 10 Phoenix YouTube page as well. Justin, it's been really a pleasure to talk to you this afternoon on the Fox Local stream.
Marla, thank you so much for helping us, preview this special. I thought you were going to throw up our old photo from 2012 from
I wish.
Whatever my BlackBerry.
Hey, you know what? If they follow us,
I just want to thank you.
We're going to post it.
I'm going to thank you in front of all your viewers just for being so welcoming and paying it forward back then to an intern who was just trying to get a reel together. And this has come full circle, and it's an honor to be your colleague, as Fox colleagues and co-workers, I guess, from Arizona to LA. And I just appreciate everything you did mentoring me, and I learned so much, and now I hope to pay it forward to others.
Well, so proud of you, and thank you for your kind words, Justin. Justin Lum, give him a follow on socials. He is with Fox 10 in Arizona. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing that special. All right, we will have much more for you on the Fox Local stream in just 2 minutes. Christine Devine, she's coming up next. Thank you for joining us on the Fox Local Stream. I'm Christine Devine. The homelessness crisis is one of heartbreak and for many a feeling of helplessness. The problem so great, the solution, there's not just one. We want to show you some video that you may have seen. Last week, Fox 11 News here in Los Angeles broke this story. That woman you saw living in a storm drain in South LA. It was a new visual low for us. We've seen a lot in LA, but this one tugged at my heart. How does this happen? I couldn't help but think this is someone's daughter, someone's sister. Perhaps she's a mother herself. We found out this week that she is all of the above. Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf right there, who first brought us the story, heard from the woman's sister and her mother. They blamed drug abuse and begged for the help to get her help. We are taking the next half hour to explore the issue of homelessness through the lens of humanity. We talk with a man who was once on the streets himself, a woman who feeds the unhoused and wrote a play about it, and an actress from the play whose father lived in his car. Joining me by Zoom from Ohio is Anthony Brown. Anthony, so good to see you. How are you?
Good. How are you, Christine?
I'm happy to see you, my friend. So we should note you're the author of 2 books, Ghetto Practitioner and From Park Bench, when you were unhoused and homeless yourself, to Park Avenue. Talk about the new book.
The new book is basically a continuation on what happened with my life after I got it together. I went out, became a nurse practitioner, started our foundation, Jeanette Jones Stafford Foundation, and then started working on Brown Manor to help other individuals who are homeless transition out into, I guess you can say, the normality of life.
Let me explain all that. So I met you about the time that you had written From Park Bench to Park Avenue, and that picture there on the left is you when you were homeless. Talk about how you ended up being homeless.
That picture was actually a good day, but I come from a background of childhood trauma that was unresolved. I anesthetized myself by doing drugs. I ran away from home at 14. I was out there until I was 37.
Wow.
And that was the end result of my ineffective coping skills and trying to navigate life as an adult with a 14-year-old mindset.
Anthony, I want to ask you this, if you want to get personal for a minute, because I know your story well. You saw a lot of trauma with your mother, and we should note the positive side of this is you now have a foundation and are building a home to help others after having been homeless for decades. Do you want to touch a little on the trauma you experienced that led you to being on the streets?
Yeah, at the age, I come from one of those, I guess you can say, spared a rod, spoiled a child environment, which translates to child abuse. And at the age of 9, me and my sisters woke up one day and we found my mom laying on the floor and she had got shot in the head. And that made an impact on me, and I carried that trauma throughout the rest of my life. I didn't realize that I didn't realize it was suppressed, and I didn't realize that I was trying to cope with it by, drinking and doing drugs and all that other stuff. But then after I got my life in order and got some direction and guidance, then I was able to look back and see exactly what it was and resolve some of those issues.
And you are now a host, a speaker. You've done a lot of interviews. Do I have this right? You started using drugs at, was it 12 years old?
Yes, I was drinking prior to that. I probably started drinking when I was 6 or 7, but I started using drugs immensely when I was 12. At the age of 15, I started experimenting with needles. And that was just my whole life, just putting almost anything in my body. It didn't matter what it was. It didn't even matter if it was real. It was just that mindset had developed, and that craving was so intense that I would just do whatever it took for me to get rid of that suppressed feeling that I didn't know I was experiencing.
I want to have you look at the footage with me of the woman that we found living in the storm drain. You had some thoughts about that. Talk about what you thought when you first saw the video I sent you.
When I first looked at that, I realized that there's multiple issues going on, and a lot of people probably wouldn't view it as I would, because I've been there and I've done that. I know somewhere this was my first thought was this is somebody's mom, somebody's daughter.
Me too.
And and she definitely needed some help. And I watched that whole thing and I listened to the little small things. And one thing that lady said that stuck out for me when she was leaving, and she just said, well, I guess I have to find another home. That resonated with me.
Anthony, me too. Yeah, I tell you why? Because I thought that was her shelter. And I thought about the sexual abuse out there and the elements out there. And you kind of thought the same, that was her shelter, that storm drain.
Right. That was a place that, regardless of what it looked like, at one point in time, she felt it was safe. That's why she kept going back there. And when that was taken away from her, then what little she had less. And I couldn't say if it was substance use or mental health. I know further on in another clip, it was shown that I think her mother or her sister or someone said that she had substance use issues, where there's clearly some mental health issues going on. But then again, it could be some sort of medical condition that can cause some sort of brain disorder. So there was a whole lot going on there. And I felt that this lady at one point in time probably had some help, but she didn't stick with it.
Well, we had video, and yes, her mother and her sister came forward to our reporter, Matthew Cedar. We had video of her when she was vibrant and a singer and had her health. And she is a mother herself to 3 children. We think about somebody out in the elements like that and think, why are they not going in for help? Why are they not accepting the help that's being offered when resource officers did go out there to talk with her?
In situations like that, even though there's a lot of help, people, because I've been working in mental health for the past 20 years. And a lot of times people might feel what little freedom or autonomy that they have is taken, and you have structured rules. Sometimes people go into a place and it's crowded, caseworkers don't give them a lot of attention, and they feel like they're just a number. And a lot of times people will feel that they're part of a system instead of individuals treating them like a person, and that would cause an individual to go back out and go, well, at least I do have some freedom, at least I do have some autonomy, at least somebody out here, whether it's negative or positive, treats me like I'm an individual. And that is probably some of the things that's occurring.
Well, I know you talked about your own drug use, reading your book. You talk about going to jail more than once. What turned it around for you? I mean, I don't know if you were ever as bad as it seems that woman is, or many of the other people we see out there on the streets, the worst of the worst. I don't know how bad it was for you, but how did you turn it around?
Someone approached me and said, do you think you had a problem? Now, up until that point, I thought I was living okay because the environment I was in, it was reinforcing that as being part of the norm. But someone, actually it was a police officer.
Yeah, I remember that, a police officer.
Yes, and he asked me if I wanted some help. And at that point in time, I was just tired. And from him, I went into a treatment program, and I got to see a different side of life. And people accepted me as I am, and they treated me like I was an individual. I mean, people would say my name. They would say, hi, Anthony. People would tell me things like, we're going to care about you until you can care about yourself. And whenever I made a mistake, and Lord knows I made a few in the beginning because I lacked social skills. But people said, that's okay. You're still learning. We still like you. Stick around. So all of that made me feel like I was a human being.
Yeah, you're saying it happened to be at the right moment in time with the right amount of care that spoke to you. But I'm guessing you probably had rejected other attempts at help or care or change?
Yes, because I'm sure a lot of people probably approached me, but it's how they approached me. When somebody comes up and says, hey, you need to change, a wall goes up. You know, if somebody comes up and goes, this is what I'm going to do for you, a wall goes up. When somebody come up to me finally and said, don't you think you need some help? That allowed me to make a decision. And I felt like my word is heard now. And the same thing I noticed with that individual. I feel that if we approach people more on a one-to-one, if we approach people with the language in which they understand, somebody that has experience, so that you can say, yes, you do relate to me, and I'm not just a number, that lowers the fear and the resistance, and that allows somebody to be more open-minded. One thing I really liked about that clip, because this showed me a lot of different things, well, both of them did, but one, she likes music. You know, she was a singer. And if you approached her with that knowledge, and probably somewhere, because she had been in treatment, and somewhere someone should have picked up on that.
I want to get to this because I know that you have 2 books out there now. One's called Ghetto Practitioner. So what's your message when you go out there to try to reach people? Because I'm guessing that the drugs are such a draw as well.
Yes. Well, I let people know that, you know, change isn't easy, but it's worth it. I tell people about my story. I tell them that, you know, here I went from a person who was literally eating out of a trash can to a person writing books. I went from a person living under bridges to an individual who is actually a nurse practitioner. I went from being a drug addict to a person who's allowed to prescribe medications. Now, all of that wasn't easy, and it took me 27 years to get to this point where I'm at in my life. But the thing is I understand what it's like to be cold and hungry and felt left out. I've been there and I've done that, and I speak the language when I'm out there with people in the community. I will sit next to somebody. I don't care what you smell like. I don't care if you're hearing voices. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not afraid and I'm not condescending. I'm here to see how I best can help you. Now tell me what you need and how can we get to that point.
So Anthony, we just were looking at some photos, excuse me, of you with a graduation sash and you as a nurse practitioner and you in a business suit. And we should note that you were in Orange County for many years and, excuse me, you went to go back home to Ohio to be of service in your mother's honor. Tell us your mother's name and talk about your foundation.
My mother's name is Jeanette Southwold. Our foundation is the Jeanette Jones Southwood Foundation. And what we do is we want to look not just on the surface of homelessness. We want to look at the mental health aspect. We want to look at the social aspect. We want to look at the substance abuse aspect. We want to look at the biological aspects of what's going on with the body. We want to see in the spiritual aspect. We want to take homelessness down to the root, because one thing with our foundation, we discovered that babies aren't raised in the street. If there's a baby in the street, Child Protective Services will remove that baby. And so we need to figure out what's the cause of, you know, people being homeless, as well as how do we get people to transition back into a life, because that lady had a life at one point in time. And we come to realize that it's a combination of many things, and we want to work with different institutions so that we can utilize the knowledge that they have to apply and assist the individuals that's out there. So that's what our foundation does.
So Anthony Brown, very proud of your continued work and your voice. I want to thank you for taking time to shed some light on this issue, and perhaps with the humanity behind your work, we can make some progress. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Christine.
All right, we're going to talk more about this when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Fox Local here in Los Angeles. I'm news anchor Christine Devine. Finding the humanity in the unhoused is the focus of this half hour on Fox Local. Joining me now are two women in the arts and from the play Under the Freeway. Welcome playwright Brandy Burks-Kesselman. Yes? Hello. And play actress Brittany Jones, artist named Britt J, which explains the look. You go by the human chandelier.
Yes.
And so if you ever see her or her social media, this is the look. Okay. In the play, you played a homeless person.
Yes.
Yeah, homeless musician.
Homeless musician, a young homeless musician.
Okay, Brandy, start us out here. So we should note that you have lived experience in that you used to feed the homeless. Talk about that.
Yes, so in the beginning of early 2000s, I started feeding the homeless on 6th and Crocker.
Downtown LA.
Downtown Los Angeles. And I would go on 6th and Crocker because that was an area that wasn't saturated with the unhoused at the time. I would set up, I would cook the food, set up, and it'll be like 1, 2, 3 people come, but they would put the word out. They would go around the corner, like St. Julian isn't too far, where there was many unhoused people.
Yeah, you should see
and
it's
then,
gay, right?
Oh, it's
Skid Row.
Skid Row. So I would feed them. They would come and they would get in line, and I would feed them food, and I would take clothes, sheets, blankets, pillows, whatever I could gather, and just set it up out there for them to get it.
And I know you did this with your own money after work.
After
with
work.
your paycheck. We should note you also have a catering business, so cooking was your thing.
Correct.
But what moved you to write a play? I know you were also a playwright.
So while feeding these people that lived on the streets, I would talk to them, have conversation with them. They love to talk. They don't talk to many people, I guess. And I would speak with them, and they started becoming my friends. I would get to know them, and I started hearing their stories. Mental, alcoholics, you name it, that was what was down there. And I just took those stories and I gathered other information. And so some of it is true and some is fictitious, but I went off of their stories.
So I'm looking at the flyer here, Under the Freeway. You just had a showing of it recently. I've seen the play. Britt, there you are in the back there. We can see you there. This woman's here, mental illness with her?
Yes.
And the gentleman next, this guy really moved me. His story is?
On drugs, crack cocaine.
Britt, the musician there.
Yes.
The other
The
two
musical.
characters?
Correct.
This was a couple.
That found love under the freeway.
And this gentleman, veteran?
Yes.
So they're the people that we see living on their streets, and we have interviewed. We all think of the person who is a veteran, and you did the storyline of someone like that. Why someone like that?
Why not? It's so many down there from all different walks of life. And one of the veterans that I met in real life said the government never gave me what they said they were going to give me. And it just touched me. And I'm like, you know what? I can't give, I don't have to give on a real broad, I can't give big, but I can do small things in a big way. So it's imperative to me to just go out and give back to them. And it's very important to give in the times that no one else is giving. You know, they have big feedings for Thanksgiving. They have huge feedings for Christmas. But what about the days every day? What about every day?
And what I love about the humanity that you brought to the play is, for example, the veteran had housing for the night. He could go to the shelter for the night.
Correct.
But he gave it up to the woman who was mentally ill and took her and let her have his room.
That is correct.
We're looking at footage here. So Britt, you're there in the greenish blue, green, I guess. Sure.
Yes.
Your storyline is what in the play?
I'm a young singer who's a musician that has a substance abuse problem, and she's given up on life, you know, so she decided to live under the freeway because that was the best she could do. You know, a lot of people don't want to conform to society's rules. A lot of people out there don't like to do that, and that's where she felt free.
As you played that character, where did you draw from to bring that to life?
Honestly, you know, my father's homeless, you know, so I thought about him. I've talked to other young homeless people, and you think like, why are you down here? But they say like, I know this isn't right, but this just feels comfortable. This is where I am in life right now. The musician that played for the play, really put me in the zone and made me feel emotional. Like the music is so emotional.
The music was so good.
The music is so good, you know.
Yeah.
So I always pulled from that as well, since my father was a musician and I could hear my father playing during the play, and I would be thinking about what he went through and how like he just couldn't get it together and make it out.
So I know your story well. Britt was on American Idol at 16 years old and is a musician herself, an artist, been a radio host. These are pictures of your father here.
Yes.
You had said that he had a job,
Yes.
went homeless when he lost his job.
Right. So he became a truck driver, and he got diabetes. Just you know how he's not taking care of himself. He's riding city to city, state to state, eating at those truck stops, and it just went bad. He got rushed to the hospital, and he couldn't do it anymore.
And so he ended up in his car.
He ended up in his car. Yes.
So let me just stay with that story for a second here. So this is real life. Your father's living in his car. What does that do to a family like yourself?
It's rough, especially at the time. I have an illness, and at the time I wasn't able to work. Somebody else was paying the bills where I stayed, so it was just rough that I couldn't do anything about it. But I would always go visit and bring him food and different things, but it really weighed on me, like very heavy, and other family members as well.
So Brandy, the purpose of the play is what?
Just to shed life and light on the unhoused. They don't actually have a voice, and I figured that this play, I can move it from city to city, because you know homelessness is everywhere. And so my goal is just to let more people see it, let more people be aware. At the end of each show, I give out a bag. I have a bag with a blanket and socks and hand sanitizer, wipes, you name it, it's in this bag. And I give it to everyone in the audience, and I tell them to please do me one favor. Have a personal encounter with someone who's unhoused.
And give it to them.
Give it to them.
So what I love about this scene here is they're dancing and celebrating and playing music and singing because they're celebrating a birthday. So that also reminds me that these are human beings who have birthdays, who care for one another, who bring whatever present they can. Britt, might be your music. There's a gentleman in the wheelchair there. But also part of your storyline is that a pastor and his wife have been going down to help and be of help to the people under the freeway. Why did that part of the storyline matter?
It was a pastor who actually lived under the freeway. He had did some drugs, and he ended up homeless. He ended up unhoused, and his wife came down to feed the homeless and noticed him being down there. And so that's how those two came under there.
And I love the character, the young man who's basically a crack addict.
Yes.
And he suffered so deeply.
Yes.
And the ending, we were talking about this, but the ending, she's praying with him.
Yes.
Talk about that.
There's hope. You know, she'd been down there a few times, and she always asked, you know, can I pray with you? And he's like, you know, no prayer needed. You know, he talked about his life and how he was raised by a mean aunt, and no one cared about him. And this is where he ended up. And he never wanted the prayer. And at the end of the story, the reason why they're having this party, not only because of the birthday, but because they're closing off this end of the freeway, so everyone will disperse. They have to go in different directions. And
like we see cleanups.
Yes, cleanup. We see cleanups all the time. That you know, it gets back to where it used to be, but it is a cleanup for a moment, you know. And she's down there and she's looking for her husband. You know, she wants to ask him for forgiveness because they had it out down there. And the only one that's left is the guy that's on drugs. And he said, you know, I can't find your husband, but do you mind if I can have that prayer?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know these are characters,
Yes.
but it's based on experiences you had in
Correct.
feeding people who were unhoused.
Yes.
Britt, you want to share a letter, because I know it's very emotional for you to talk about your father who has passed away. But you want to read some of your letter? We
Sure.
have some time. I'll let you call that up. So in the meantime, what Britt's calling, you ready, Britt? Okay, go ahead.
Yes. My father was a preacher and a musician. He played for people all over the world, and he had a gift. But after my parents' divorce, things changed. The work slowed down, and then his health started to decline. He developed diabetes while he was on the road driving trucks, and it just got worse from there. Over time, he couldn't keep up with the rent, and he ended up moving place to place. Eventually, he was sleeping in his car. A lot of people don't understand homelessness doesn't always come from bad choices. Sometimes it's health. Sometimes it's life just hitting you over and over again. He was really sick and didn't fully realize how bad it was until he went into a diabetic coma. Later, he even lost a toe. I tried to help where I could. I let him stay with me when he was healing, but I was struggling too and didn't have the space and stability to fully take care of him. You know, I stayed in like a studio apartment, like a back house, and it was 3 people, that's a lot. So after a while, he got tired of being told what to do and being treated differently because he couldn't pay rent. So his car became one of the places where he felt he had control and peace. He later had 2 strokes, went on dialysis, and passed away. And for a long time, I carried guilt, feeling like if I had been in a better position, I could have saved him. But the truth is, this is bigger than one person or one family. People need support, real support, especially when it comes to health and housing. My father just wasn't a homeless man. He was talented, he was loved, and he mattered.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that last part. And he mattered.
He mattered.
Well, I think that so many of us were touched by the woman who was living in the storm drain. If we can show that video. I wanted to ask you, Brandy, when you saw her, I'm sure you can relate, Britt, she's a singer too, right here. And then when you saw her in this condition, Brandy, when I sent you the video, what was your thought?
My thoughts were, when they were interviewing her, they were speaking with her, they said, if we can find you a place to go, would you go? Her answer was, I sure would. And I wanted to know, did they find her some help? Did they find her a roof over her head? And like Britt said earlier, sometimes even if you find these things, people don't even want it.
I was told, and we had video of resource officers who did go out, and the last shot was her walking away with a shopping cart.
Like she did not want the help?
Yeah. Had you met people like that?
Absolutely. A majority of them that are out there, they're out there because they want to be, not because they have to be. I work with the Healthy Housing Foundation, and they have purchased a bunch of buildings downtown LA, a bunch of hotels, and they renovated them with a communal restroom, and it's like a studio apartment with a bed and a microwave. And they said a lot of people do not want to abide by the rules.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of them are on the streets because they want to be, not because they have to be.
Yeah. You have a bag of it. Is that your bag down there? We stuck it on over.
Yes.
This is the bag that you give out to everybody who comes to the play.
Yes, it is.
Or came to the play, because it's not showing now, but this is what you hand out.
Yes, this is a...
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, just the bag.
Yeah, this is a bag. It has a little backpack in it from the Healthy Housing Foundation. I have a full airline kit that I received to put in each
Thank
bag.
You, American Airlines.
Thank you, American Airlines. Some shampoo and conditioner, some more toiletries, toothbrush, toothpaste. We have some hand sanitizer. It's a bag of, we have some stuff. It's a blanket.
Do you ever feel like, or wonder if you're enabling people to stay on the streets if you come with and cater on the corner, you bring a bag like that?
I don't. And the reason why I don't is because I look at it like this, Christine. People on the streets are like cars. There's always going to be cars on the street. There's always going to be people on the street. And I'm not a person to look for, they're like the city or the people that are in office, they're supposed to be doing all these things. If they can't do them, like I said, I'm going to do what I can in my little space. This is what I can offer, but I don't think this is adding to, they need these things.
I think, though, that we know that there's always been people who've been homeless.
Yes.
But it seems in more recent years, it's extremely bad.
It is.
It's extremely, it feels unsolvable. It's
Correct.
Everywhere.
It's like, how do we fix it? So I can't fix it. So I'm like, what can I do? So let me put a bag together and just meet them where they are. I have this company that give us naloxone to help save a life. It's a lot of overdoses from opioids. So naloxone is in the bag. And it's a lot of great things in here. And it's like, we can't get them off the street. I wish I could get a tent company to sponsor, and we can give them a tent, help them where they are.
Have you seen people get off the streets? Because you were working, I think, in some kind of near a shelter when you were feeding.
Yes, yes. We've seen people get off the streets. Absolutely. When the people that we feed, they're no longer there. They will come and hang out. We had a friend named Norman, and he moved into a transitional housing across the street, and he finally got a place. But in the beginning, he didn't have a place. So yes, there are stories of people that get off the street, but those are the people that want to, like that young lady. She's on drugs or mentally ill. So it's like if they do take her off the streets, they're going to put her in an uncomfortable environment until they get her mind right and get her back to normal. Like, how do you go from being on drugs, living in a storm drain? How do you go from that just back to home?
It takes a lot of work.
Yes, yes.
So let's go back to the play now. The play is not running. I'm hoping there are plans for it to run again. I know you're working on that,
yes,
right?
We're working on it to run again in late May.
Okay, so it's called Under the Freeway. Britt, as you interacted with these different characters, and I know you did another run of the play some time ago, did you feel any healing in hearing some of these stories, even though it was a scripted play?
Definitely. Some of these stories, even though like I'm not homeless, they do hit home a little bit. You know, nobody's perfect, you know, and it's just like we're all, not all, 20% of us are not, but most of us are one paycheck away from being in that position.
Right.
And it's like, what would I do if I was here? What would I do?
Was there a character, like I'm looking at the veteran here and the woman who was suffering mental illness there, was there a character, Britt, that stood out to you that you really were moved by as you just kind of sat there watching them do their lines?
Yes. What's Daphne's name in the play?
Mona.
Mona with the baby. Yes.
Talk about that character.
Just to watch her, you know, cry and cry about a baby that she drowned. The whole time she was acting as if the baby was in her hand. We all thought the baby was in her hand. And it's just devastating to see, like, she's hiding from people because she doesn't want to tell people that she drowned her baby. That is interesting.
So she had experienced trauma.
Right.
That led to perhaps, or was tied to the mental illness.
And just to think a young girl out there who has drowned her baby and she's playing every day with a bear, rocking this bear to sleep every night.
And somewhere in the play, it's exposed that she does not really have a baby. She's not really, Brandy, holding a baby.
Correct.
Right, and we're devastated. We're shocked. Like, it wasn't even a baby in there. Like, what are you doing?
Because everybody that's living under the freeway
thought that she had a baby in there.
Brandy, what's the reaction you get from people who come to see the play?
Tears.
Yeah.
Sobs, moans, laughter, because I try to have a little comic relief in there. I don't want you to just leave messed up like that. But a lot of people like, where did you get this from? How did you hear? And that takes me back to, you know, I started feeding the homeless and telling them the whole story. But the response that I get on this production lets me know that I did the right thing. And that's important to me, to make sure you're doing the right thing.
I have to tell you, when I saw the play, I was moved because we all drive by somebody who's homeless in LA. You can't help but drive by somebody somewhere who's homeless. And sometimes it can be dismissive. I can be dismissive.
Yes.
Them. And then when I heard your play, I thought about the veteran who came back from war.
Yes.
And suffered. I thought about the young man who was addicted to crack cocaine.
Yes.
I thought about the person who lost their job and didn't have anywhere to go in a whole different way, because I never heard their conversations.
Right.
I never talked with them about their storyline.
Right.
You have a thought on that, Britt?
I can actually say this. Another way it hit close to home, my father's a pastor. So just because you're a pastor, it doesn't mean that you can't be homeless, you know, like, so it's just interesting.
Do you think your father could have done something differently besides live in his car?
Not at that time, no. I feel like we would have to rewind years before, you know, when he was with my mom technically, and maybe if he did things, you know, right with that situation, he would probably still be alive.
I myself am processing a lot with family, so I understand the questions and the rethinking of things and wondering about things. So Brandy, what's next with the storyline, the play? Where do you go from here?
Travel, take this play on the road. That's the plan, to take it on the road. Been looking at different places to go, looking for in Las Vegas for like a residency, you know, because that's a place where people come from all around the world. So that's a place that they'll be able to see it, and it's not too far from Los Angeles. Different cities out here. Right now we're working on taking it to Carson, to the university there in Carson. So the end of May, we'll know. I'll have more answers this week about getting this location at the end of May.
I should ask you some Hollywood questions because both of you are in the Hollywood industry. How hard is it to get a play produced where you're actually at a theater, you have an audience, people are buying tickets? Because you also did something during COVID, right?
Yes.
Okay, what did you do during COVID?
During COVID, we did a short film, the Under the Freeway, the short film. It's about around 18 minutes long. And I'm like, you know, COVID is going on. I really want to get this done right now, but I can't take these actors to like a St. Julian. I can't take them to a homeless area. I have to create my own. So what I did was I got a permit from the city, and I got a freeway, a very, very clean freeway in Toluca Lake. And I had the graffiti artist come out. Thanks, he came out and he graffitied all of the walls for us, and we put all the trash in the tents, and we made it what we needed it to be. And so we have a short film of Under the Freeway right now.
And so to get a play going itself, did you GoFundMe? Did you get a donor, a sponsor? How did you raise the money to do a play?
So for the play, I used my own funds.
Wow.
Yeah, I used my own funds to, you know, get the theater, all of the permits, pay all of the actors and the musicians. But for the short film, I raised $30,000 on GoFundMe.
Wow.
And we produced it with the $30,000.
So if someone has a story to tell,
yes,
you can get it done.
You can definitely get it done. You have to put in the work, though. It's a lot of work. It's very, very, I'm not going to say it's very hard. It's very time consuming. And you got to make sure that you can write a play all day and you can rent a location, but you have to make sure that the people are in the seats to come and see it.
Yeah. How long did it take to write the play?
Under the Freeway took me 3 months to write.
And how many of the characters are, that's this guy, actually real people? I know you based it around different scenes and scenarios. How many of the characters are actually real people? That's the guy from...
I can't say any of them are actually the real, because it was their story mixed with a couple stories. Like one person might be 3 stories, you know? It takes a lot to write these different stories, all these different types of people. But one of them, it's a girl, she's in it. She goes by the name of Bootsy. She's under the freeway because she's a young girl who was in foster care.
We know that storyline.
Yes,
well.
And then once you're 18 and you're gone, this is where she ended up. So.
And Britt, you auditioned for the part?
Yes.
Why did you want to do this play?
Because I thought Brandy was cool, number one.
Thank you.
I met Brandy at a mixer. Tammy Mack from KJLH had this mixer, and I would always see Brandy, and you know, she asked me about it, and I was like, man, like I would love to do that, and I would love to see this go to Broadway. So let's rent it, like.
And being a musician yourself, you could kind of feel that character, I'm guessing.
Definitely,
yes,
definitely, and especially being a young singer trying to make it in LA. You know, that's not that easy. So
can you go back to your how old were you when you were on American Idol?
16.
And that was season
3 with Fantasia.
Fantasia. Do you want to share a little about that experience?
I made it to the top 100. It wasn't a positive experience then when I did it, but as an adult, I look back like, you were too emotional, you know, like, but it was a okay experience. You know, they make you get up in the middle of the night, like you barely get any sleep. You got to come up with these songs. And as a 16-year-old, I was just like, this is a lot.
Probably one of the younger ones.
Yeah, I was.
And Fantasia, when you saw Fantasia, did you know that she had star power?
Definitely, definitely. I got pictures with me and her sitting on the bus together. We had everybody would get on the bus and ride up to the theater that we were doing it at. But yeah, like she was always amazing.
And what age did you start singing?
What age I started singing? Maybe about 5.
Okay, because I know your dad being in the music business.
Always
your brother.
with his bands. Yeah, he's a drummer too.
And so to transition into acting, was that hard?
No, it wasn't.
You had memorized lines.
Brandy didn't give me that many, so.
but she did. She wrote her own song. She wrote her song, which is an amazing, phenomenal song for this production, and I'm grateful for that.
Want to do another play?
I do.
Yeah, you like theater?
I do.
Feeding off the live audience, how was that?
It was amazing. It was amazing. I just loved how people were laughing. People were crying. I've had many people contact me on social media and tell me like I made them cry like so hard, and I was just like, okay, cool, like that's awesome. You felt it. That's great.
If we can look at that video of the scene, some of the video of the play, I do love the ending where they're having a good time together. What was the message, Brandy, with that? They're celebrating at this birthday, but also they're about to disperse because they're closing down the freeway here. So they're all going to part ways after this. Talk about the guy in the wheelchair.
The guy in the wheelchair is a dancer, and he's saying that he stays in this wheelchair to get his Social Security, to get a check.
Because he's not really in a wheelchair.
He can really dance. He can really stand up. He can really walk. So his story, this is his front to keep getting paid. So that's what his story is actually about. But what I wanted to show in this is like, you know what, I may not have my family, I may not, have who I was raised around, but I can make a family wherever I'm at. And these people have all something in common, that they're unhoused, and they made the best of their situation while together. And
you found that they had care for one another.
Correct.
I don't think we always think about that. We think, why is like we interviewed a woman last night who has been homeless for 10 years. Like, how can that be? And you're saying people find family.
They find family.
Amongst even
they a lot of them have pets that like are their companion. And it's like, how do you? It means it's a lot. Like you don't have what it takes to take care of you, but you have something to take care of.
All right, let's wrap this up with a final thought on this homelessness crisis in LA. Do you have a summation after living it by feeding the homeless with your catering company is called what?
It's called The Starving Actor.
The Starving Actor.
The Starving Actor Catering Company.
What's your specialty?
Yes, my specialty is American cuisines.
Okay, all right. So as you were feeding the homeless, you do a play, it actually runs. Your thought on the homelessness crisis that we are all seeing each and every day in Los Angeles?
My thoughts on it is, if you can do something in your small little space, do it. Because it's going to be there. So if you can do anything, like, give them a bottle of water. Whatever you can do in your means, whatever you can do, if you can do it, please do it.
And Britt, having lived the experience with your own family, how do you heal and move forward? Your father's passed away. How do you?
I still haven't really. I'm still working on that.
Yeah. It's a painful journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. I appreciate you coming on. Tell us your social media.
My social media is Brit11X_ the human _ chandelier.
Brit the human chandelier, representing with a lot of bling and pearl right there.
Right. And can I say one more thing?
Yes.
We like to give a special thanks to the graffiti artist, Thanks One. He has graffiti in the Getty Library. So,
he's amazing.
He's done all the graffiti for the play ever since Brandy's been doing it.
I should ask you to sing us out here, perhaps with a song, part of the song of the play. Can you
could.
go bring it? Okay.
Amazing.
All right. So I'll say goodbye to you, and we'll let you sing for a second. But Brandy Brooks-Kesselman, thank you so much. The play is Under the Freeway. Britt, give us some song.
How did I let myself end up here? I never thought this is how my life would be. Hey, how did I let myself end up here? Singing my shoulda, coulda, wouldas every day under the freeway, same street, yeah.
Amazing.
All right. I'm Christine Devine here with Fox Local, Fox 11 in Los Angeles, bringing you a look at homelessness in a whole different way, the humanity, the humans behind it all, as we all deal with this crisis in our cities. Thanks for watching.
The reason he did is because he knew he wasn't under the influence of alcohol, thus denying the urine sample, because when they received that, they could potentially find what he was under the influence of. Add that to what he was actually had in his pockets, they could potentially be like, well, you're under the influence of this. So as a defense lawyer, what you are going to do is try to attack the person who was the officer who was observing this lethargic, unsteady in his feet, red shot, glassy eyes, all of which are standard in a DUI case. But a jury, if this actually got to trial, it's not whether or not this individual was impaired. That's how they would actually prove it under the law. It's whether somebody shouldn't be driving, whether drunk or under the influence of narcotics to the point they should not have been operating a motor vehicle. So when the body cam footage, if there is any, is eventually released, that will give a good indication whether this case has any trial appeal whatsoever.
And let's talk about the urinalysis. It's my understanding that that went away very, very recently. And the fact that he refused it, obviously they'll never be able to know exactly what was in his system. Why did it change recently? Can you give me some background on that and how he refused to do it? How important might that be?
So in the state of Florida, when you, on every single driver's license, you agree to provide it is an implied consent, meaning that you're operating this vehicle, they ask you to provide a breath sample or a urine sample, you must provide it. If you don't, your license is taken away automatically. Since Tiger had a previous offense, I believe, which I think he refused as well, this time his license is taken away for a period of 18 months. Usually it's a period of 1 year, 6 months, depending on whether or not the individual provided a breath sample or refused. But with a prior, he is not eligible for a license for 18 months, and he cannot get a business purposes only license. So Tiger's not going to be able to drive whatsoever for a period of over a year. So thankfully he can afford to invest in a personal driver because he's going to need one.
And a lot of people are asking why, in fact, he was driving in the first place. As he entered this not guilty plea earlier on today, they also asked for a jury trial. And we know Tiger Woods, the 15-time major champion, 82 times a winner on the PGA Tour, just the high-profile nature that he is. Would that help him in a jury trial?
Potentially, but remember, what's going to happen in this type of situation is they're going to be seeing that this actually caused an accident. So when people are deciding drunk driving, people on juries who are doing DUI cases, DUI is the one crime that has no socioeconomic background. Anybody at any time can get a DUI. So when juries are hearing the facts of the case, they are always giving much more deference to the defendant because they too could be arrested and pulled over for, hey, I only had 2 beers or something like that and they gave me a DUI. I wasn't drunk like they said. But that's sometimes what happens. So when they see if there is body cam footage, what a jury is going to decide is whether or not Mr. Woods